There we go. Yes,
What's up, my
finally.
man? What's up?
Technical
What's up?
difficulties. Lost a little momentum there, but let's get that back. My man,
Yes.
Josh Coates, bro. Thank you so much for jumping on live with me. And I'm excited, bro. I'm excited to dive in and introduce you to the tribe because you, man, have been crushing. And it's really cool to just see you win and how much you serve, not just on the income level, like 2 6-figure months back to back. You're, on the rise, building a multi-million-dollar company, just serving leaders all over the world, but just really just how you show up within our community, bro. Like you are always empowering people. Like you're constantly empowering others. So I
Yeah.
just want to talk to you, bro. Talk to me a little bit about you have a best-selling book, and I think it's so
Yeah.
cool. It's called Leadership, right? Yeah, I love that. I love that. It obviously hooks you. So talk to me a
Yep.
little bit. What's the inspiration between your book, Leadership, and give us some insight on that.
First of all, thanks for having me, G, dude. I appreciate it so much. Sorry about any technical issues. I don't know what's going on. Oklahoma, we don't really have the internet here, man. We're just like chilling, trying to figure life out. But dude, I'm so excited to be here. So honored. Want to honor you as a leader, serving all of us, everyone on this page. People are. I mean, you listed off people from like every country in the world just following you. I appreciate the space that you've made for me to grow so much, dude. But the book, man, this is inspired by like, today I actually posted on my Instagram, I celebrated 5 years since I walked away from my 9 to 5 job to do this full
Wow.
time, which is just crazy, right? 5 years of like doing what you love instead of like doing what the world tells you to do, right? And I've just spent as a life coach slash what's become kind of a leadership coach and business coach, spent thousands of hours on one-on-ones with people, like asking like, why are you struggling, like what do you need help with? And I just hear people say over and over and over and over and over and over, Josh, I don't think I'm good enough of a leader. Like I have this goal, this place that I want to get to, this place that I want to like go for, but I don't think I'm good enough of a leader to help my team get there. Like maybe I know how to show up, I know what to do for me, but I don't know how to help people. And to me, that comes down to just like self-belief and self-worth, right? Like we take this word leadership, and dude, I know you interviewed my boy John Maxwell. I love John Maxwell to death, right? And he's written so much good stuff on leadership, but in my opinion,
Well, I saw, right?
yes, I went through his certification program, man. I love jmax.
Oh yeah.
um Got a book right here, right? But the thing is, in my opinion, Gerard, because there's been so many leadership books, nobody is actually reading what they say anymore. They're just drawing an idea of like, oh, leadership, be a better leader, be a better leader, be a better leader, be a better leader. And instead of actually like reading what's in between the covers of, say, a John Maxwell book that really doesn't talk about like how you have to be fancy. John Maxwell's never said you have to have together. In fact, like I saw him speak one time and he like spilled shit on a shirt and he was like, we could edit that out, but we're not going to because I want people to see that I'm human. Like that's his
Right.
heart.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, so many people, Gerard, have seen successful people that are great leaders that they look up to, and they have trouble separating the leader and the celebrity. And it's almost like instead of modeling the leadership, we're trying to model the celebrity. And that's where we find ourselves not measuring up. We can't live up to this person's Instagram following. We can't live up to this person's best-selling book. We can't live up to the celebrity. And in reality, it is the character and the human and the hustle that turned them into this leader, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, if you want to be like the next Gerard Adams, don't try to copy his Instagram page. Try to copy his heart, you know? But it gets twisted and backwards because of social media, right? Like sometimes our marketing is too good. Like our marketing is too good that it like sometimes can look like leadership is really more about like looking good and having all the right colors and having all. So like this book was like, you know what? This word leadership, that word. Like let's tear all that down and let's get back to like what life and business is really about. Because to me, like that's like life and business, it all comes from a place in your heart,
Yeah.
not
Like
from a
true
place in your head.
would you say that it's like break, because for me, leadership has always come down to like your character. Like my
Mm-hmm.
father used to always say that quote to me, right? About like, you know, reputation is merely what people think you are. Your character is actually
Yeah.
who you truly are. And I think that's what you're
Right.
talking about, right? So
Yep.
many of us are getting caught up in like having a reputation based on followers and the way we look and our profile and our social media
Yep.
accounts and our books and our all these things, rather than our character and how we actually show up. And I think that's
Right.
what's most important. You know, I noticed that, like, even when there's people I followed. How many of you relate to this? Comment below. You follow someone, you look up to them, you admire them, but then when you meet them in person, not their Instagram, you finally meet them in person,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden they're kind of a douchebag. They're kind of don't really take the time to be present with you and really see you and like do that. I've had that happen even with people I've interviewed where I'm like, man, I look up to you so much, but then you meet them and sometimes they don't necessarily represent that character off camera. So that's
Right.
why I really love what you're saying, because it really comes down to breaking down like, who are you at the core? When there's no cameras, forget about social media, because at the end of the day, that's what people follow. At the end of the day, that's where real legacy comes from, and that's why a lot of my clients that don't have big followings, like you, right? You don't have this massive following, hundreds of thousands of people. You have a following that's, you know, I have clients that are between 10,000, 20,000, sometimes even less, and they're still building 7-figure businesses and changing people's lives. Josh, talk to me about that. Right. And what is it like for you to kind of did you go through with finally stepping out and starting to build your brand? What was that like? Did you go through some imposter syndrome? Did you start comparing? Did you go down that route, that rabbit hole of like, can I really do this? Can I really lead people?
Yeah, so my first year, absolutely. I fell in love with personal growth via podcasts. Like was detailing cars, playing in rock bands on the weekends. Like I still got like all my music gear like all over my office behind me just because I love to have it around. And like that was my life. Okay. That life, I felt like it had run its course. I was like, okay, like I've done this for 9.5 years. It's not going anywhere. If it does go somewhere, it's going to take me further and further away from my family. And it's who knows how many years until it actually pays off. You know, like only a couple people are lucky enough to get on the radio and become famous. Our world is different, man. Like there's no limit on how many people can like make money. Like there's not like a certain amount of spots, right? So I went all in on personal growth, fell in love with it. It changed my life. And I was just like, I don't care if I ever get rich or not. Like, I just love this so much. Like, I wasn't even thinking about being rich. I didn't even know there was a thing. Like, I didn't know you could make money. Like, I grew up super poor. I just cared, like, can I do the thing that I love for a living? Right. And serve my mission instead of someone else's, like, full-time golfing hobby. Like, that was my thought, right? And so I teamed up with John Maxwell because I was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it with the best in the world. And if I'm going to learn, it's got to be from the best. Like to this day, I only want to learn from you if you're the best at what you do. That's why I pay Gerard Adams money to be in his group. I'm like, this guy's the best at what he does. That's who I want to be aligned with. And my whole first year, Gerard, I felt like, again, this is me. This isn't what was reality. This was my perception. I felt everyone on the John Maxwell team was a 75-year-old white dude with like 50 years of business experience, right? And so they said, hey, you want to build a business? Call up all your friends and see if they want to have you speak at their business. Call up your friends, rally them together for like an in-person mastermind. And none of this shit worked for me because I didn't have friends who had money. Like I did it and like 8 people showed up and they were all family and friends who didn't have money to buy anything, right? So my whole first year, I was stuck on this. Like that was my lid. Jmax talks about the lid a lot. My lid was, I don't have what they have. And then I always tell people like that actually became my biggest blessing because since I didn't have anybody in my circle, I had to go make a new circle on social media. Like I had to go to social media and say, you know what? There's billions of people here and none of them know that I just detailed cars all day for a living. Like none of them know that I'm currently wearing like some like work khakis and a polo and I'm like covered in tire shine. Like all they know is what I put out on social media, and I have the ability not to fake it. It's not fake, but I have the ability to show the side of me that is this personal growth and this lead. Like I get to show them my passion versus what other people have judged me based on, which is, oh, he details cars, he doesn't know what he's doing, right?
Yeah,
So
and it's also the bubble. I call it the bubble. Like where
yeah,
I grew up in Belleville, New Jersey. It was like a bubble. And what happened is I
right,
had a circle of friends, and everyone was stuck with the same
yep,
mentality, still smoking
yep,
blunts every day. Everyone was still drinking and getting all
yep,
messed up every weekend. And everybody was with the same
yeah,
mentality, doing the same thing, going to the same clubs, going to the same
right,
places, doing the same things,
yeah,
getting the same results. And I got to a point
right,
in my life, and if I want to, really have different results, and be able to take care of my mom, and be
yep,
able to take care of my dad, and be able to take
yeah,
care of my, be able to have a better life, then I have to break out of that bubble. And I
yeah,
think what that, social media allows you to do too is to connect with people worldwide and be able to share that side of
yes,
you, where a lot of times in your own community they may not understand you. Sometimes your
right,
family understand you.
yeah,
How
absolutely.
you can relate to that? Comment below. I want to know how many of you have felt this way. Comment a one if you have felt this way, that you've been in a bubble, or what Josh calls the lid, and you were ready to
Yeah,
break that lid, break out of that bubble, and expand. I think about expansion. Expand your community, expand your relationships, expand your vision, expand that passion to get it worldwide.
yeah,
So Joshua, what was that turning point for you where you finally stepped forward? You talk about personal growth. I know you're big with
hmm,
I am, but like, what did you start doing that really gave you the belief system that, like,
yeah,
okay, I can become
yeah,
rich and take care of my family and have real influence and
yeah.
really lead?
So there's two things for me. I mean, number one is like I was scared to death of failure personally. Like I grew up in a very religious home where like you were either like on like you were like in God's will or you were like in sin. And that was just like beat and ingrained into my soul for so long that to me I somehow related losing with like sin. Because if it was like God's will, you would have won. But because you didn't win, you obviously went down the wrong path, right? And actually, I read a book by John Maxwell called Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. And this book just completely changed my philosophy that taught me like the only way you're going to learn anything is to fail. That's that's it. And I remember reading that book and being like, okay, well, if the only way to learn is to fail, then I need to fail more than anybody else in the world. And so it's almost like I gave myself permission. Like everyone else wants to succeed so bad. And I did the opposite. I said, okay, if I ever want to succeed, I got to get through these pains and these failures first. So my first year in business, my only goal was to fail as many times as I possibly could. Because I was
Wow.
like, we just got to go collect some data. You know what I mean? Like I can't know any, if I can't learn without failing, then goal should not be to win. Goal should be to go fail, man. And I fell on my face that whole first year. I made $500 total in my first year. 500 bucks. Like that's it, right? And so basically someone's asking in the comments what made you forsake God's will. I didn't forsake God's will. I got realigned to understanding that my understanding of God's will was based on humans and what they had told me and not really God at all. And that's the thing that will like really hold you back and you up is when you try to take man's interpretation of God that's used to try to hold people back, to try to keep people stuck, and try to keep someone under something. And in
Give you,
my opinion, God's trying to like set you free. Like
yeah,
he's trying to release you to like
yeah.
go into your purpose.
And what I realized too is like, for two things I want to say is one, similar to you, Josh, right? Like a lot of you may not know, I've shared it on different interviews, right? But like my failures early in my career, I thought my career was over when I had my first really big failure. People don't
Mm-hmm.
remember failures, but
Yeah.
one, it becomes such a powerful story of mine. And I learned so much. It allowed me to find my passion and go and build first big business in life because I had to fail first and learn from that. So I totally agree with that. And I also feel like this, the more hardships that you go through, I
Mm-hmm.
do believe God giving you that response, like actually you're going through it for a reason, right? It's like you
Yeah.
either have it's happening to you or for you. And the
Yep.
more that you go through that's tougher, it really, in my opinion, is because God believes in you to see if
Yeah.
you can hold that responsibility to be able to get through that, and then use that pain, use that failure, use that obstacle
Mm-hmm.
to then use that message to help others to get through that same thing.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest leaders that I've ever followed, become friends with, they have all had to go through that. None of them grew up with having everything and it all worked out perfectly.
Right.
That's why
Right.
there's called the hero's journey. You have to
Yep.
go on your hero's journey. You have to figure out
Yep.
when are you use your sword. When are you going to go and conquer your mountain?
Yep. Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. So yeah, that was like the number one thing was like got to reestablish beliefs, right? Focus on a different thing. But the second thing, man, and you mentioned this earlier, is like, how am I going to pay for my parents? So I had 3 kids. And I can still remember, Gerard, sitting at my laptop and I'm trying to message people and offer them like free calls and stuff. I'm sure like everybody watching this that has a business, you've been in the DMs, like messaging people, trying to put yourself out there. And and I'm sitting here feeling sick to my stomach because I'm like, I know that I'm just interrupting this person's day to try to offer them something so that I can make a sale. And that feels gross and that feels icky. And I didn't like that feeling. And I remember sitting there and I'm thinking about my family. I had 3 kids, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, I got to build a better future for them. But I have this problem. I care too much about what people think about me. And
Woo! That's it.
yeah, but then I realized something, okay? Like it's like jmax was in my head. That's a cool, if you hang around intelligent people long enough, they get in your head and become like your new voice of reason, right? And something hit me and I was like, wait a second. I don't care too much about what people think about me. I care too much about what the wrong people think about me. Because I'm sitting here worried about what, I don't know, Alabama Fitness on Instagram thinks about me. Meanwhile, I got kids on the other side of my wall playing. I can't afford to buy them birthday presents. Every single year when school year comes around, I have to hope that my mom buys them new school clothes because I don't have the money to. Like, I'm literally sitting there waiting for my mom to notice that
Yeah.
my kids don't have new clothes,
Wow.
hoping she'll offer to take them school shopping. That was my life, right? And I'm like,
This was just 5 years ago.
this was, well, 5 years ago is when I went full time. So 6.5 years ago, 6.5 years ago, I'm like having this moment in my office, right, where I started my business. And I was just like, dude, do you want to deal with the rejection of people on Instagram or the regret of never giving your kids the life they really deserve? And that became my superpower. Like, my superpower was, I don't know if I have what it takes. I don't even know if I'm worthy of this. I don't know if I really deserve this, but I believe so much in the people that I love. I'm willing to put my whole heart and soul on the line to just make sure that one day, like, I'm a super honest person. You can ask me anything in the world and I'll just tell you, like, that's just like, that's how I am. There's going to come a day where my kids are going to say, Dad, why were we poor?
Yeah.
And if I don't go all in, I'm going to have to tell them. I'll just say, because I was too afraid to try. And so I would like envision myself fast forwarding and saying, I was too afraid to try, looking my kids in the eyes. And then I would envision myself saying, because I gave everything I had and I just didn't have what it took. And I was like, I can live with that. Like, I can live with that answer, right? I can't live with I wasn't willing to try. I was afraid. I just so scared. I just wasn't even willing to do. I wasn't willing to message someone on Instagram to make a better life for my kid. Like, are you kidding me right now?
I think this is why getting clear on what your why is, and this is something that's so powerful for every single one of you who's listening to this. One thing that I want you all to do, you can do it now. You can comment it if it comes too quickly, or when you get off this live stream. I want you to think about 2 things. What is your why? And I want your why to be selfish. For Josh, I had to get selfish. It was his kids. His kids weren't
Yep.
going to get clothes. They couldn't get presents for Christmas. Like, his kids needed him. He had nothing to lose, everything to gain, to go all in for his kids. So what is your why? Comment it below
Yep.
if you know why is. The second thing is, from your why, you have to understand what your purpose is. And your purpose is the thing that your why can be selfish. For me, when I wanted to take care of my mother, I had to do what I had to do because my mother was in pain. My mother had worked 6-7 days a week to give me everything. I wanted to give my mother a better life. Your purpose, though, can be this big vision. That's the thing that can be bigger than you, the thing that you're called to serve, the thing that God has given you, your gifts to bring to the world to make the world a better place. Comment below if you know what your why is that's selfish to you, or your purpose. Comment it below, or after this, work on that. So Josh, keep it going, man. So so how do you start to get some momentum? I mean, now you've gotten two six-figure building a 7-figure business, leading people all over the world. You have a massive mastermind. You're selling out. You are an unbelievable thought leader. You're one of the top leaders, high performers in our mastermind, the Conscious Leaders Mastermind. So, like, man, how did you? So, talk to me about like that curve, that threshold that you broke through, and then boom, you started catching on.
So I mean, I think that like what it really comes down to is like what you're talking about, having this like this I call it the mission plus the vision, or the why plus the purpose. Like, it's like you got to have those two things combined. So it's like, yes, I want to take care of my kids. Like, number one, I'll do whatever I have to do. I detailed cars for 9.5 years. Like, why wouldn't I message people on Instagram, right? So, but then it's like, what do I want to give to the world? And then becoming so just embraced by that gift that you want to give to the world that you can't shut up about it. Like I tell my clients all the time, like, you can have the right strategy, and like, strategy is good. Like, you never want to do something without strategy.
Right.
But at the end of the day, passion trumps strategy every single time. So it's like, I was just getting on calls. I'll give you like a couple tips, Gerard, for everybody listening. Number one, never let the passion die. If you ever get to the point where the profit is more important than the passion, you will see the passion fade and you will see the profit fade. Like, they go together. You know what I'm saying? Like, you cannot continue to build bigger while your passion dies. You get what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't work like that. And I see people all the time that try to get too strategic. Like, well, should I post it this time or that time? Should I use this color or that color? And it's like, they get so into the strategy, they lose their passion, and then nobody cares to hear what they have to say. It doesn't matter if you have the right color if you don't have the right passion, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is get really clear about, like, what are 3 things you need to do every single day that will put money in your pocket? So like, I'm just gonna tell everyone watching, a new logo doesn't put money in your pocket. Like, a new Instagram template doesn't put money in your pocket. Like, if you're at the point where you're trying to get from like the 0 to the 10K, now after 10K, that's where you can start saying, man, I want a legit logo. Like, I want a nice website. But like, if you are not making $10,000 a month, in my opinion, don't touch anything that feels too creative, because in my opinion, I know this is like really controversial, I'm a super creative guy, but because I'm so creative, I had to protect my right to like do what mattered versus what sounded fun in the moment.
Dude, I can relate to guys. I just want to say to this point, Josh, right? If I didn't sell my company, this is why I don't follow the way that I went about building my brand, guys. This is why I'm launching my personal branding a live training next week, and that you guys should all join in, is because like I've reverse engineered what actually works to building a personal brand. Because when I first started it, I had just sold a company for $50 million. So I was able to spend money on all these creative things and videography, all these things. But at the end of the day, it would have made me broke if I didn't have an exit. You know, you have to figure out what Josh is saying is true. You have to really figure out how can you truly bring people value first, rather than trying to create the perfect picture, the perfect filter, you know, the perfect grid. It's like actually understanding how can you provide true value and solve people's problems first, especially if you're doing under 10K per month right now.
Yeah, and so that's what I did. You know, like in year 1, I only made $500, but year 2, I made $48,000 part-time. Because I was just like, okay, Josh, what are the 3 things you got to do? And for me, it was this simple. Do personal growth on a level that no one else is willing to do it. Because if you want to be someone that adds value to other people's lives, you better be ahead of them, right? So for me, it was do more personal growth than anyone else in the world. Number two, make sure I talk to people every single day. Like every single day, I'm asking people, do you want to have a free call? Just, I'll get on a free call, find out in 30 minutes, is this something that can help you? Is this something that will benefit you, right? Like, so second is talk to humans, okay? And then third was just have a presence on social media. And I wasn't even trying to like take over social media. I wasn't trying to like have millions of followers. It was more of like, hey, if I'm talking to people in the inbox, they're going to want to go check me out and see what I'm up to. So for like, I think most people do it backwards. They're like, I'm going to try to take over social media with as much content as possible and hope and pray that those people then reach out to me. For me, it was the opposite. It was like, reach out to as many humans as possible. I only need like 10 minutes to make up a post. Like, I don't need 7 hours to make a post. No one, unless you have a following like Gerard, and most of you don't. Most of you are like me, where you had smaller followings. You don't make a sale from saying, hey, new group, who wants to join me on your Instagram? Like most of you get like maybe 100 likes, maybe 150 likes, and maybe 4 comments, right? So it's like, again, as your brand builds, yes, you want to take advantage of everything you can, but in the beginning, it's what puts cash in my pocket, and that equals conversations, not posts, not stories. Even though you can do that too, it shouldn't be the majority of your time spent, okay? So it's like, make sure you have a focused plan. And then the third thing I just want to say, Gerard, because that's what got me to 10,000, okay? But it's like, once I started
moving to conversations, right? Getting away from trying to worry, posting, and then getting people on the phone, having real conversations to help them.
Yeah, get away from the glamour. Like, get away from the glamour and just do the matters, right? Like, do that first, okay? And then it's like, once you get to 10,000, then it's from there, what's the one thing I can add to my business every single year that will basically scale it? In other words, how can I take what's an already working system? So like my third year, I learned social media ads. After that, I learned how to take ads, turn them into like my webinar formula that was already working well, pour money into webinars. Then it's almost like, Gerard, and this is where you're at, like on a whole nother level, is like, how do I take the system that works and how do I pour money and marketing into it to make what I already do really well go like this? And again, that's what I feel like people get distracted by, is they're trying to scale what doesn't exist. Like, you can't scale nothing, right? Like, you got to put in the foundational work first. Then you can put some fancy art on your walls. But you like, everyone wants the fancy art on their walls before they even have a house built, right? So it's like, get back to building the house. Then you can go out and buy anything you want. You can decorate it with the prettiest stuff in the world, but you got to have a house first.
Yeah, I love that, man. That reminds me of people who go and, rent Lamborghinis and Ferraris and private jets before they have their house, their home, their savings, their, actually in a place where they're truly investing into their business. And true, man, and that's why we have a lot of broke influencers out in the world, because some people even have the huge following, but they're still broke because they don't actually the business. And I think that's why I was passionate about building my brand, is to bridge that gap, because I was a businessman way before I started building my personal brand. And it's true. It's like, that's the true power of having a personal brand, is that you can actually lead people beyond liking your social media account, but you can guide them. You can bring them in and actually bring them into a community, actually give them a path to truly creating what you have proven that you've been able to do for yourself. And that's something that Josh is doing, guys. I mean, he's one of the most powerful. He's known as the push coach. So Josh, talk to me about so tell everybody quickly, what are you working on now, man? What has gotten you this year? What was the thing that you were putting to scale your business? And then how are you supporting your current clients currently right now?
So, I mean, like, this was the thing. I launched this in 2019, this book. And then I spent all of 2020 basically organizing and optimizing the funnel around it. So like right now for me, what is just killing it for those of you that are like looking for some like practical business advice, what's killing it for me is find something that speaks to your people. Like this book is not something that I was like, oh, here's something I want to say. It was more the response to what I heard everyone else needed. And I feel like that's like when it comes to marketing, it's not just about what do you want to say, right? Like it's got to be selfless. And if it's just what I want to say, that's selfish because it makes me feel good. Like this book was literally a response to something I saw the world needed and was literally like begging for, right? So give your followers the thing that they need, okay? And then the other thing I'll say is I took the time. I mean, I took several months to say, okay, I could post 90,000 times on Instagram, or I could take this one thing and I can scale it to thousands of people. It's got about 10,000 copies in distribution. And so it's like 10,000 people have got a hold of this thing that solves their problem. And because of that, they say, okay, I trust you. What do I do next? And to me, like that's one of the like misunderstood things is like, again, Instagram makes us think you need to have 90,000 things of content. And again, you can. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not saying that that's bad. But why wouldn't you also have a one thing that you just create one time and then use it to take over the world? Because I'm not having to rewrite it every day. Like I just wrote it once, went through the work, the time and the energy to get it published. And now, I mean, you can go to joshcoates.com and basically you can see what I'm doing. You get a free copy if you pay for shipping. While you're there, we offer some type of an upsell that relates to this product, solves some of the same problems, that gives you a chance to get some videos from me. And then after that, we're retargeting you with ads to say, okay, if you wanted this, it means you're my person, right? First of all, put fuck on there on purpose, because if that offends you, you're not my person. You're not going to like my live calls. Like my live calls get really explicit because I take 2 scoops of pre-workout before I do my training calls for my groups, because they depend on my energy, right? So like that's what I bring to them. So it's like, if you grab this, then I know you're my kind of a person, and then I'm retargeting you with emails and with ads to try to push you into what are my main subscription groups, where we can take this book and not just read it and listen to it and find value in it, but turn it into a system that you live by on a daily basis.
Right.
Because the process, jmax, man, God, I love jmax, talking about him so much today. jmax says that a leader is not made in a day, but rather one day at a time. So it's like you can read the book, but the real question is, will you do it one day at a time for long enough for it to become literally what you've manifested in your life? So that's kind of like the whole year has been using this to kind of pull people into the places where we see transformation and see their businesses 3 to 4x in like 6 months.
Oh man, thank you so much, brother. That was powerful. I'm curious. So like, what is one of the things we worked on in the Conscious Leaders Mastermind is the H5. I want to know, give some tips for what do you do to, like, what are your habits? What do you do to set up your day to win?
So for me, again, everything. So since my very first event, I've always said outward success is an expression of inward growth. So for me, like, I'm only as good on this call as I am on my couch where I sit with my journal and where I sit with my goals. Like that's like my sanctuary right there. You know, like that's the spot that I sit with just a little bit of pre-workout in my water, enough to like wake me up because I hate the mornings. And like that's where it's like I got to grab a hold of things internally before I try to go make them happen externally. So for me, it's like taking time. I have my goals. I set my goals in January. I used to reset them every quarter. And what I found was if you reset your goals, you're never going to get them. So like now it's like I set them in January. I love this philosophy. Set your goals in January while you have the energy and momentum of the whole world on your side. and then don't let them go in April and May and June when the crowd is gone and the hype, and the stick to the thing you committed to when the energy was on a high. So it's like I have those goals written down in January, and then I literally wake up every single morning and I just look over them and I visualize myself having them. For me, it's the what is the goal? Why is that end goal important to you? And then what are like the steps that you have to follow through on a daily basis to make that happen? And it's like, that's a constant reminder of, like, for instance, like if you have big enough of a goal, you can feel selfish, right? You can feel like, do I really need that? But then I remind myself, yeah, because here's all of the people that are affected by that. Here's all of the people that need that. I'm not trying to buy a bigger house right now. Like, we did build this house in January. I love it. But right now, that's not what right now, I'm trying to create generational wealth so that my kids can start businesses, so that we can build orphanages, so that we can, dude, I said this on a call the other day. If enough of the right people have enough money, we can solve the world's problems. Like, we can end hunger. We can end racism. We can end all of the things in this world that do not represent light and truth. The problem is not that we don't have good people. The problem is that we don't have enough good people with money. We got a lot of good people that are broke because they feel guilty or negative or bad for wanting something better. So that's kind of a long tangent, but morning routine is basically reviewing the goals, planning out my day, writing down things that I'm thankful for, writing down things that I'm going to focus on. And then let me just say, do you mind if I throw in something for all of our hustlers out there that I'm really learning from you and the group that we're in? Is I have mastered the masculine energy, and that's one of the reasons I've had the success that I've had. This year, my main focus is like, if you're a 10 out of 10 on a masculine and a 1 out of 10 on a feminine, you're just going to be burnt out and frustrated, even if you have a lot of money, right? So like this year, my focus, one of my affirmations that just like changed my life says, because making memories is just as valuable as making progress, today I'm choosing to enjoy the people, the places, and the things that I already have in my life. So
Say that again, Josh.
It's like,
say that again. God,
yeah.
Let this one hit home for you.
Because making memories is just as valuable as making progress, I choose to appreciate the people, the places, and the things that I already have in my life. Like, dude, quarantine had me all kinds of depressed because I realized I don't know how to be happy unless I have the next thing to reach for. And if I don't have the next thing to reach for, it's like I get to do that with my day, right? I spend my day reaching for the next thing. But then in the evenings, I have my kids 50% of the time. We're watching movies. That keeps me busy and occupied. If I don't have my kids, usually I'm traveling, hanging out at a coffee shop, or like going to my favorite cocktail bar. I'm getting around enough busyness that I'm okay with not going for progress in that moment because I'm busy, right? And that's not really happy, that's just busy. Take away all of the busyness and it fucked me up. I was like, I don't know how to sit here and just be happy.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what I'm doing.
Quarantine.
And so
lesson because of that. It caused all of us, especially entrepreneurs that are caught in the doing and the hustle and the masculine, it really caused us, forced us to have to slow down and what harmony really looks like, and like start to become aware of the being and become aware of the present and become aware of what we already have. And like, I know some of the most successful people, I'm talking like billionaires, venture capitalists that I've worked with, and for the first time, I'm actually getting to know my daughter. Like, I'm having dinner with her every night. I'm eating breakfast with her every day. I'm spending time with them. Whereas before, he's like got deals. He's doing this. He's providing. So in his eyes, he's providing the better life. But is he actually being with them? Is he creating those memories with the kids? And that's truly like the balance that we all need in our lives, is the doing and the being.
Yeah, and it's tough because like most of us are wired one way or the other. And I've spent most of my career helping people that are more feminine tap into the masculine. Like I you know, my whole following is women who are network marketing, and for the majority of them, they most naturally can flow, but they really struggle to hustle because it kind of goes against their like regular nature. And I'm like, so I've spent 6.5 years teaching people how to hustle, teaching people how to get over their fear, how to get over their excuses, how to get over all of these things that are trying to keep them stuck, right? And now I'm having to come back, and Gerard, I'm trying really hard to like kind of balance out my own message. Like even my profile, like my shirt says outwork, out hustle, like outdo everyone. And I'm trying to say to everyone, okay, I want to make it clear though, out hustle doesn't mean more hours, it means more focus.
More
It doesn't
productivity.
equal. Yes.
Doesn't mean
It's
more
like,
busyness, means more productivity.
yep, exactly. And that's the thing, is it's like, I still believe wholeheartedly in the hustle. I believe that like what you sow is what you reap. What you seek is what you find. There's like a hustle element to that, right? But then I also realized there was this whole other part of my brand that I had always used but never taught, and that was, I also believe really strongly in grace. At the end of every single day, even in my first year when I wasn't making any money, where I wasn't seeing any progress, I would do the 3 things on my list, and then I would go take a shower and I would pray. And I would just be like,
I
and I would
pray in
say
the
affirmations. Yeah. And I would just say affirmations that basically were kind of almost like, this is how I see it. It's like, I'm going to do my part because I do believe you have to do your part. And then I'm going to let go, because if I don't let go, I don't let God do his thing. Like if I've got my hands on it 24/7, he never gets to have his hand on it. So for me, it's like,
that's also right there. Like that's a lesson in the feminine right there. It
yes.
actually, in the surrender, right?
Yep.
In the surrender of letting go. And that is like, I think when you really are leaning into that faith and you're not the masculine, we try to control shit, you know, and
Yep.
a lot of the women out there too, like we want to control everything. And that we fear is like letting go of that control. And I think quarantine, I think really put a lot of things in perspective of how much
Yeah.
is not in our control. And you gotta let God.
Yeah.
God has a plan, and it's way bigger than you could ever imagine. And it
Yeah.
takes you to be able to let go, but still stay in
Yeah.
your
Mm-hmm.
certainty of what you're here to
Yep.
do.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like we're all farmers, you know. Like this is an analogy I used on a call the other day. It's and Jim Rohn, who is like an OG. God, I love Jim Rohn. I listen. If you go on Spotify and look up Jim Rohn, his last name's Rohn. He's like the J. He's like jmax, but like in a different way, right? There's some dudes that have just put some like beats to Jim Rohn speeches. And like that's what I listen to while I work out every morning. Every morning I'll work out, I put my AirPods in. I got some new ones. I'm having trouble putting my ear right, but I listen to beats with Jim Rohn, like with these words of wisdom while I'm working out, and it's so powerful. But one of the things he said was, he's like, too many people sow their seed in the fall and then walk away in the summer. Sorry, they sow their seed in the spring and then they walk away in the summer because it gets too hot. Like they don't hold out till the fall when the harvest would have came, right? And so
Yeah,
that's like the masculine is, you gotta wake up and you gotta sometimes till that ground. Like you gotta be out of the ground sometimes to like get it prepared, and you gotta get the seed in there. You got all, but the feminine is like, it's okay. The harvest is coming in like 6 months. Don't worry. Like quit trying to figure out how you're gonna eat today. It's coming, right? Like trusting that seed always brings a harvest, but never the day or the time you want it. Like you just have to trust that it comes when it's time for it to come.
yeah, that's powerful, brother. And I'm so happy that you've been tapping into that balance. I've been seeing it. I've been seeing, and what's crazy is like when we do that, all of a sudden you're actually doing less, but you actually start achieving more. So
Yep.
talking about results, what have been the results of this mentality, of this way of being?
I mean, the results are, I mean, like you're saying, I get more done in less time. The results are also, I'm happier. The results are I have more peace and energy for my family. My business is growing just as it was. And in fact, I've got like 2 new business opportunities that kind of like popped up because I also believe that like when you kind of release some of it, you give your brain space to find things that have been there all along. You just
Yeah.
couldn't see them, right? You don't have, so I've got literally my business is blowing up. As Gerard said, I had a couple, I had consecutive 6-figure months, like right when I joined the group, which was just craziness, right? I've got a December coming up that I think I'm maybe double that, which is just insane because when you bring this kind of energy and this kind of focus to the customers that you have, nobody wants to leave and they tell everybody to come join you, right? So it's like currently I got some of my Push Elite girls on the call right now. Shout out to my Push Elite girls, to my Push Mastermind
Yeah.
girls. And we're just going to another level of energy. Like we're literally going to another level where their energy, again, like you can't do the same thing with higher energy and not get better results. Like that's my belief, you know,
Right.
and that's the trick of social media, and
Plus,
that is the trick of a personal brand.
plus, I feel like the energy is not, for me at least, like energy is not just because I know you, Josh. You're in our group, right? You have like energy, right? Like, yo, let's go, let's go.
Yeah.
There's that energy, but there's also this energy of like this energy that is like wholeness. This energy of like
Yep.
I am confident. I am
Yep. Yep.
certain. I am like fully prepared for whatever is to come today, and I am like ready
Yep.
for it. I'm unquitable. I am
Yeah.
unbreakable,
Yep.
unlimited. You know, and that like that kind of energy is this like mature, sacred masculine and divine feminine on a whole nother
Right.
level. Where at that point, things it's like the law of attraction. Things
Mm-hmm.
literally come to you.
Yes.
You get to a point where
Yes.
you're no longer chasing the money, chasing the relationship,
Yep.
chasing the happiness. It literally comes to you because you're
Yeah.
being it. You're embodying the energy of abundance, embodying the energy of fulfillment, of freedom, of all these things. So automatically, that's what ends up coming to you, you know, because you're being it. So
Yep.
I feel like there's that kind of energy too. It's not just the energy to sustain your success and sustain the responsibility you have to run your business and to
Mm-hmm.
run your mastermind and your community and your vision. It's
Yeah.
like the ability to receive more
Yeah.
of God's plan for you.
Yep. Yeah, dude, I totally agree. I mean, one of the first books that I read while I was in that first year slump, like I had it playing in my car every single day on my way to work, on my way home, was Think and Grow Rich. And the whole philosophy behind Think and Grow Rich is that all of the world's wealthiest people were just people who had such a burning desire that they, not just a burning desire, but they knew how to hold on to that desire until it found itself out here, right? So, yeah, there's work you have to do. And that's why I said, like earlier in the call, find the 3 things you need to do every day. Like, find those 3 things and stick to them. But, like, really, like, the most powerful force is the force of internally having this confidence that I will get what I want and nothing can stop me. And that doesn't have to look outgoing like I am. That happens to be my personality, but like that's just my expression of that confidence. For some people, the expression of that confidence is like not talking, super chill. Well, you know what I mean? So it's like finding your, how do you first of all get that confidence? And number 2, how do you express that confidence to the world? Like, how do you show the world, like, this is, and this is probably the most challenging part for all of us, like, even explaining it is hard, right? How do I express to the world out here what is happening in here?
Mm.
That's energy, right? Like, it's coming
Woo!
from here, not from here. Like,
Oh
that's
man,
energy.
I love that, bro. Like it's coming from your soul, it's coming from your heart, and I think that's those are the greatest personal brands, thought leaders that I
Yeah.
follow, that I love. looking at their content. I love the way they show up when I meet with them in person. You could just, it's a whole nother energy. You can tell
Yep.
that they're no longer reacting to life. They're responding to it. And it's always coming from a place of their values, what they stand for, what they believe in, their vision. This is cool, man. I love it, Josh. What a powerful live. God, I think I'm going to drop this on the podcast as well. I want to take a few questions. So, guys, the first three questions, drop it in the box below. I'll pop it up. First one we got is from Mark here. Can anyone become a leader, Josh? What's your take on this?
I mean, that's the whole point of my book. The whole point of my book is that, so like when people ask me, when people say on one-on-one calls, Josh, I don't know if I'm good enough of a leader. I don't know if I'm blah, 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 blah. Here's what I always do. I always like flip it back around and I'm like, let me ask you this. What is your definition of a leader? And if you ever want to coach someone and help them kind of find like the heart, right? Always just flip it back on them and ask like, how would you even define that word? Because that takes them from their head to their heart. That's kind of like a life coaching secret is if I can ask the right questions, I can bypass your head and I can get to your heart, right? And people will say things like this: lead by example, have passion to help other people, do the work that it takes, support other people, give them the tools that you have found. I've never once heard someone say, teach someone something you've never done, have 1 million followers, have lots of extra charismatic energy and know how to speak. None of that. Again, we're getting leader and celebrity mixed up. And can anyone be a leader? That's like asking, Gerard, that's like asking, can anyone lead by example? Can anyone share the tools that have helped them? Can anyone have a heart to help people? So like a leader has nothing to do with how many people are following. It has nothing to do with how many people have made $1 million. It has to do with, have you passed off the tools that you have found? That's it. You're a leader.
Love it, bro. I love it. And I'll just also say, guys, it's no longer a question of can you become a leader? You were born a leader.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the world needs you right now to remember who you were born to be. From the moment you were born, you won. You know, you have it all. You have the ability to imagine and create and to impact and to inspire. Like you have the ability to lead. And there's always someone that's looking at you, whether it's a stranger, whether it's a brother, sister, whether it's a friend, a peer. Someone is watching how you show up. Right? So that's why it's like, most importantly, it's remembering and finding that leader that's within yourself and then leading by example. Trust me, you are a leader. So let's see, what else we got here? Here's a good one for you, Josh. We have Mallory. Thank you, Mallory. Just how do you overcome the fear of starting?
So what we're looking at when you say starting is a journey. Okay. And the way I like to look at it, I like to use the word investment, because in my opinion, the reason most people are afraid of starting is because they're afraid of failing, but they're afraid of failing because of the time they're going to lose. Like, what if I do this for a year and it doesn't work? That means I lost a year. I lost energy. I lost memories I maybe could have made with my family, whatever that is, right? So for me, if I'm looking at investing, whether it's time or money, what I want to know is, what is the worst case scenario? Because for me, if worst case scenario, I at least break even, I'm all in. Like, you want to take everything in my bank account. If you can promise that you can at least deliver that much money back to me by the end of the week, I'd be stupid not to. If it's possible that you could also 10x my money, right? So like Mallory, I want you to think of it like this. Whatever you're thinking about starting, whether it's a business, whether it's a job, whatever it is, right? I want you to ask yourself, if I decide to pursue this journey, of course, there's always some time to lose, but what if the worst case scenario is you become more confident, you become more passionate, you become more excited, you have more direction, more clarity, and learn life lessons?
And in your or taking risk, right? Because with you guys know, like, no risk, no reward. So what's the risk of not starting at all and being in the same place next year that you are right now? What is that worth? It's, I mean, think about it. How do you quantify regret? How do you quantify it? When you ask people, you know, when they're on their deathbeds, that's the number one thing that eats them up, is the regret of not trying, right? And that's just, they say that like the most wealth in the world is not with Warren Buffett. It's not in our banks. It's not, it's literally in the cemetery. In the cemetery is where the most you know, just the all the ideas and all the things that people didn't go after. It's like, you know, so what's the risk of not trying right now? Worst case scenario, and I'm telling you, every great leader has failed. You got to just fail forward, fail forward, fail forward. You only truly fail if you quit. But if you learn from it and keep going, you will never truly fail. You will fail your way to true success.
Exactly.
All right, I'm gonna take. Let's see how much more. I know, Josh, you got to get back to your business here. But Eric says, how do you break the chains of wrong habits that are so lightly felt?
How do you break the chains of wrong? I mean, so here's what I want to kind of like rephrase for you. What if we don't focus as much on the wrong habits and we focus more on the right habits? Because it's like, I think too many times we're just like focused on the wrong thing. Like I have bad habits. Gerard has bad habits. That doesn't mean we can't have success. Success is not about becoming no longer wrong, right? Like all of us are human, right? We all have error. To me, it's more like, how do I find the right things to focus on? And that will help distract me from most of the wrong things. You know, again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a really religious home where like 98% of the focus was on avoiding bad things. But we never, ever, ever talked about what good things to embrace, right? And so I'm actually working on my next book, Gerard. It's called The Best Version of You Will Figure It Out. And it's,
I love that.
Instead of being leadership in business, it's very, very, very personal growth. And one of the chapters is going to be on spirituality. And one of the statements that I'm going to make is that religion, oftentimes, I have nothing against religion. I practice religion, but oftentimes its main focus is to protect you from your human element. And spirituality is about teaching you to embrace the divine. And there's such a big difference between trying to protect from all the things that are wrong versus let's just pursue all of the things that are right. Like, let's go after all of these good things. And in doing so, I'll be so fulfilled. I'll be so healthy. I'll be so happy. Sometimes these bad habits fall off on their own. Sometimes I just realize, you know what? I just have a bad habit and that sucks. But like, that doesn't define me.
Yeah, and like Josh said, you know, he's not perfect, right? He makes mistakes. He's owning his humanness. I do too. I have bad habits as well. You know, I'm not perfect, but I focus every day, just a little bit every day, 1% better, and I just focus on the right things, the right habits. Josh, thank you so much. I had a couple more quick questions, so I guess we'll close it off with, real quick, what's your favorite new book that you're reading that you recommend?
Favorite new book? Man,
it doesn't have to be a new book, but like a favorite book that you recently read that you recommend.
The one that you assigned to us, man, the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, is game changer. In my opinion, it is like the full picture of masculine and feminine energy brought together for life and business. I love it so much, dude. That's the one.
Love that, bro. And then last question, how do you define leadership, Josh Coates?
Woo. Man, I define leadership as finding the thing that makes you so passionate about life that it wakes you up in the morning, keeps you up at night until you learn some good bedtime routines, not forever. And then you just pursue it with all of your heart and trust that it will inspire others to pursue whatever is on their heart. It's not as much, in my opinion, about actually getting people to follow you down your path. It's more about, can I blaze a trail that inspires everyone else to blaze their own trail and find their own path? Not follow me, okay? Not follow me where I go, but take up the mantle and go where you want to go.
If you want another awesome video in our Black Excellence series, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.